The Miami Ohio Redhawks finished the regular season undefeated, 31-0, and there's still a decent debate about whether the Redhawks should be considered an NCAA tournament lock. The argument for Miami is simple. They've won every game they've played. They couldn't have done any better this season. The argument against Miami is that they haven't played enough good teams, arguably beaten nobody of any consequence. In terms of strength of schedule, their best win by far is a win against Akron, a 26-5 team whose only loss in conference play was against the Redhawks, and who will not make the tournament without an automatic bid from an upset win of the MAC championship. It seems like at this point, the general consensus is in favor of the Redhawks making the tournament, regardless of the MAC tournament results, but I think it would have been a coin flip if their final game of the season, an overtime road win against in-state rivals, the Ohio Bobcats, would have instead been a loss. This debate might feel like something unique to this season, but really it's the same discussion that's been happening as long as I've been watching college basketball. Who deserves to make the tournament? A mid-major school with a strong record, but easier schedule, typically not undefeated, or a major conference team with a middling record, usually barely above 500, with a much tougher schedule. In fact, Gonzaga was the team who really changed the landscape of this discussion after consistently putting up high win total seasons in the WCC. 10 years ago, the major conference schools would generally have been given the nod, but largely due to this debate, new metrics have been added over the years to compare teams more effectively. The first I remember was strength of schedule, which ranked teams based upon how good their opponents were throughout the season. That paired with strength of result, which at least considered the result of those games, whether you won or lost. That evolved into net, which tried to paint a more accurate picture of a team's results by taking into account not only how good your opponent was, but also the location of the game. Net gave extra weight to neutral site and road games, which makes a lot of sense when you think about how significant some of the home court advantages in college basketball are. The additional piece that net considers is a team's efficiency, how many points they score per possession versus how many points they give up, which creates an interesting dynamic where you'll have a higher net ranking if you run up the score in your wins. Now, for the first time this year, there is a new metric, WAB, wins above bubble, which looks at how many wins, more or fewer, your team has than the average bubble team would have if they played your schedule. WAB eliminates the reliance on margin of victory, and it matters more about the overall result of the game, win or loss. If you're thinking, that's a lot of statistics just to compare the 47th and 48th best teams in college basketball, you're right, it is. But that's how the NCAA determines who makes the tournament and who doesn't. Here's how Miami's numbers come in this season. They are ranked 303rd in strength of schedule, which is the biggest argument against them, but their net ranking 54th is reasonable for a bubble team, and their WAB is a very strong 31st. Overall, those numbers benefit them in their inclusion for the tournament, and again, I believe they are probably in the tournament already at this point, but I've watched a couple of Redhawks games this season, including that road overtime win against Ohio, their final game of the season, and I don't think that they are better than the other bubble teams, but it's hard to deny how special the season has been for them. The thing I am most excited for is their first round in the NCAA tournament, where they will have the chance to prove if they belong or not. They will probably end up a 10 or 11 seed, which means they won't have an easy first round, and a win in the NCAA tournament would feel like putting a bow on an already very impressive season.